My name is Sarah Miller, 42 years old, a nurse from Austin, Texas. For 20 years, I've been married to Daniel, the kind of man everyone thought was perfect, charming, calm, the neighborhood favorite. We built a quiet little life together. A 2-story house, a Labrador named Max, and a daughter, Emily, who turned 18 last spring. People looked at us and said we had it all, but behind the front door, tiny cracks had already begun to form. The subtle distance it started smalled, late-night work calls. A new cologne I didn't buy. Text messages he answered with his phone tilted away from me. Nothing I could prove, just an ache in my chest that whispered something wasn't right. Daniel said I was overthinking, that I was exhausted from my shifts at the hospital, and maybe I was. But Emily noticed it too. Mom, she'd said one night as we folded laundry together. Dad's been acting weird lately. Like, he's always smiling at his phone. I brushed it off, not because I didn't believe her, but because I didn't want to. The visit my younger sister Rachel came to stay with us that spring. She'd just gone through a messy breakup and I couldn't let her stay alone. She was always the wild one. Beautiful, impulsive, the kind of woman who turned heads without trying. Daniel had always liked her. Everyone did. But lately, there was a way he looked at her that I couldn't unsee. When I'd walk into the room, their conversation would stop. When we'd have dinner, she'd laugh too loud at his jokes, and once, when she thought I wasn't looking, I saw her hand brush his arm, slowly, deliberately. Something inside me twisted. The night it happened, it was a Friday night. I'd just come home from an exhausting double shift at the hospital. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Emily was supposed to be studying upstairs, but I noticed her car keys were still on the counter. Rachel's bedroom door was open, empty, and then I heard it. A muffled laugh. A sound from my bedroom. Did I tea first? My brain refused to understand. I stood frozen in the hallway, my hands trembling, heart thundering in my chest. Then I walked closer, every step heavier than the last. I turned the doorknob, and there they were. M.Y. husband, M.Y. sister. Did I end my bed? For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. It was like my body detached from my soul, everything around me blurred. The only sound was Rachel's gasp and Daniel's voice, stammering my name. Sarah, wait, it's not. But it was the sheets. The smell. The look in their eyes. Emily appeared behind me a second later. She'd heard the noise too. And the moment she saw what I saw, her face went pale, then hard as stone. Dad, she whispered. Daniel jumped up, panic flooding his face. Emily, don't. It's not what it looks like. Rachel grabbed the sheet to cover herself. Sarah, please let me explain. But Emily didn't let anyone speak. She turned and ran downstairs. I heard the front door slam. I didn't chase her. I couldn't move. The aftermath hours later, the house was silent again. Rachel had left. Daniel sat on the couch, crying like a child, saying it was a mistake, that he didn't mean it, that it just happened. I remember looking at him and thinking this man destroyed our family and still used the word happened, and I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just said quietly, you need to leave. He begged.
Cried.
Promised therapy, forgiveness, anything. But when I looked into his eyes, I realized I didn't know him anymore. Emily's return. Emily came home the next morning. Her face was cold, unreadable. Where's Dad? She asked. Gone, I said. She nodded.
Good.
Because he doesn't deserve to call himself that anymore. I tried to tell her that anger wouldn't fix things, that someday she'd have to face her pain. But she just looked at me with tears glistening in her eyes. Mom, she said, voice trembling, he didn't just betray you. He betrayed us. A daughter's quiet fury. Over the next few days, Emily changed. She stopped going out, stopped eating properly. But behind her silence, something was brewing. A quiet, deliberate kind of rage. I overheard her talking to a friend once. He thinks he can walk away and rebuild his life like nothing happened. Watch me. I'll make him regret it. I wanted to stop her, but I also knew she needed to process her pain her own way. Little did I know, that was just the beginning of something far darker. For days after that night, our home felt like a graveyard. Every sound, the ticking clock, the creak of the floorboards, echoed like a memory I didn't want to keep. Daniel had moved into a friend's apartment across town. Rachel stopped calling, and Emily, she wasn't the same girl anymore. The silence between us, she barely spoke. When she did, her words came out cold, precise, and sharp. There was no yelling, no crying, just an eerie calm. I'd find her sitting in her room late at night, laptop open, typing furiously, her face lit by the blue glow of the screen. Once, I asked softly, what are you working on? She didn't even look up. Homework, Mom. Don't worry about it. But mothers always worry. And deep down, I knew this wasn't homework. The letter A week later, Daniel showed up unannounced. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hair disheveled, guilt carved into his face. "Sarah, please," he said at the door. "I just want to talk to Emily. Imis here." I wanted to slam the door in his face. But part of me, the part that still remembered the years before all this, hesitated. I called her down. Emily appeared on the stairs, arms crossed, her face unreadable. He tried to hug her. She stepped back. "You don't get to touch me," she said flatly. "Emily, please, I made a mistake." "A mistake?" She cut him off. "You cheated on Mom with her sister. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." He looked shattered. "I just want to make it right." She reached into her hoodie and handed him a folded letter. "Then start by reading this." He opened it with trembling hands. His eyes darted across the page, and I watched as his expression shifted from confusion to horror. "Emily, what is this?" "It's your truth," she said quietly. "I sent a copy to the hospital board, your boss, and Aunt Rachel's company." I froze. "Emily, what did you do?" She looked at me, calm and deliberate. "I told them everything. With proof. Screenshots. Photos. Texts. The truth deserves to be known." Daniel's face turned pale. "You ruined my career." "No," Emily said. "You ruined your own life the day you walked into Mom's room with her sister." The fallout within days, it all unraveled. Daniel lost his position at the hospital where he worked as a senior administrator. Rachel's company received anonymous emails exposing her affair. Her boss, disgusted, demoted her and launched an internal ethics investigation. Daniel called me, furious. "You need to control her, Sarah. She's destroying everything." I remember whispering, "She's just a reflection of what you destroyed first." Then I hung up, but even though I hated him for what he did, watching Emily go down this path scared me. The breaking point one night, I found Emily crying in her room, the kind of quiet crying that breaks a mother's heart. "Sweetheart," I said softly, sitting beside her. "You don't have to keep fighting. Let it go. He's not worth it." She looked up, eyes swollen, voice trembling. "Mom, I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see you crying that night. I see him in your bed. I can't forget it. I can't forgive it." She turned away, staring at her phone screen. "And I'm not done yet." I frowned. "Emily, what are you planning?" But she didn't answer. Only later did I find out. She had started posting online under a fake account, sharing her story anonymously on forums and social media. It went viral. Thousands of women commented, angry, heartbroken, supporting her revenge. She'd become a kind of internet heroine. The daughter who exposed her father's betrayal. First, I didn't know whether to be proud or terrified. The visit 2 weeks later, Rachel showed up at our door. Her face was pale, her makeup smudged, eyes red from crying. "Sarah," she whispered, "please. I've lost my job. Everyone knows. I'm getting death threats. You have to talk to Emily." I wanted to slam the door in her face, but I didn't. I just stood there, silent. She began to cry. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't mean to hurt you." I cut her off. "You didn't mean to? Rachel, you slept with my husband in my house. In my bed." She sobbed harder.
"I'm sorry."
"I loved him. Loved him?" I laughed bitterly. "Then you deserve each other." And I closed the door. Slowly, firmly, behind me. Emily had been listening the entire time. She got off easy, Emily muttered. I could ruin her completely. That's when I grabbed her shoulders and said sharply, "Emily, stop. Enough. This isn't justice anymore. It's destruction." She looked at me, eyes burning with pain. Then maybe destruction is what they deserve. The whisper in the dark that night. I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Daniel's voice, Rachel's sobs, Emily's rage. The house felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by memories and choices. I walked into the kitchen and found Emily sitting in the dark, staring out the window. "Do you ever wonder," she whispered, "why good people always have to suffer for other people's sins?" I didn't have an answer. All I could do was hold her hand. My little girl, broken and burning at the same time, but I knew something had shifted. The revenge that started as justice had now become her identity, and I was terrified of who she might become next. There's a strange kind of quiet that comes after chaos, like the air is holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do next. That's what our house felt like. Silent. Still. Heavy, except for Emily's room. Behind that closed door, the world was still burning. The viral storm, the online posts Emily had written, her story about a father's betrayal and a mother's heartbreak, had gone viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. People demanding justice. Women saying she'd given them courage. The internet didn't know names, but it didn't have to. Somehow, people found Daniel and Rachel anyway. His photo appeared on local gossip forums, his workplace vandalized online, fake reviews flooding his business listing. Rachel's name started trending in small circles. Strangers sent her messages calling her homewrecker, snake, and worse. And through it all, Emily sat in her room, watching her screen glow, her fingers scrolling through comments like they were validation. The phone call one evening, I was washing dishes when the phone rang. It was Daniel. His voice sounded different, thin, trembling. "Sarah, I can't take it anymore. People are calling me at all hours. My reputation's gone. I lost my job. My license is under review. They even found where I live." I closed my eyes. "Daniel, I know I deserve some of it, but Emily, she's destroying me." His voice cracked. "Please, talk to her. I don't want to call the police, but if she keeps this up, don't you dare," I snapped. "You ruined her life. Don't you play the victim now." But when I hung up, I didn't feel victory. I felt something worse. Fear. Because for the first time, I realized Emily wasn't just angry anymore. She was enjoying it. A mother's fear that night. I stood outside her door. "Emily?" I whispered. "No answer." Did I knock gently? "Sweetheart, can I come in?" Still nothing. Did I push the door open? Her laptop was open, a live stream running on screen. A group of strangers were talking about her story, analyzing every word, calling her brave, a hero. In the corner of the screen was her username at Justice for Her Mom. Her follower count? Nearly 300,000. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "Emily, what are you doing?" She jumped, slamming the laptop shut. "Mom, don't. You're still posting? They need to know the truth," she snapped. "He's a monster, Mom. Everyone should see what he did." Her voice cracked, but there was something wild in her eyes, a mix of pain and obsession. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "this isn't healing. This is hurting you." She looked at me, tears falling, her voice shaking. "Then why does it feel good, Mom? Why does it feel like the only thing keeping me alive?" The breaking news 3 days later. I was at the grocery store when my phone buzzed. A news alert. Local hospital administrator under investigation following viral infidelity scandal. Sources confirm attempt at self-harm. My vision blurred. The floor tilted. The phone slipped from my hand. Daniel. The hospital room the moment I saw him. My knees went weak. He was lying in a hospital bed, pale, eyes closed, machines beeping softly. The nurse told me he'd taken sleeping pills and whiskey, found by a neighbor just in time. I stood there, frozen between pity and rage. The man who broke me was now broken himself. When he finally opened his eyes, his voice was barely a whisper. "Sarah, tell Emily I'm sorry." I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted to scream. To ask him why he did what he did, why he threw us away, why he let it all come to this. But all I said was, "You don't get to leave us again." The daughter's guilt when I told Emily what happened, her face went white. "No," she whispered. "He's lying. He's just trying to make me feel bad." I shook my head. "He almost died, Emily." She sank to the floor, shaking. "Oh my God. I didn't mean, I just wanted him to hurt, not like that." For the first time in months, she wasn't angry. She was terrified. She cried into my chest like a little girl again. Mom, did I go too far? I stroked her hair and whispered, "You just let the pain speak louder than your heart." The family meeting when Daniel came home from the hospital, he was quieter. We sat at the kitchen table, the three of us, for the first time in months. The silence was suffocating. He looked at Emily, eyes red. "I don't expect forgiveness. But please stop destroying yourself trying to destroy me." Emily stared at him, trembling. "You destroyed our family, Dad." "I know," he whispered, "and I'll live with that for the rest of my life." I watched them both, my husband and my daughter, two broken pieces of a life that once made sense. And for the first time, I realized something painful but true. Maybe no one in this story was innocent anymore. The reflection that night, I stood alone in front of the mirror. The woman staring back looked older. Not because of time, but because of heartbreak. I whispered to my reflection, "You wanted truth, Sarah. You got it. But was it worth what it cost?" In the distance, I heard Emily's soft sobs behind her bedroom door, and I knew the fire wasn't out yet. It had only changed shape, because pain doesn't just disappear, it finds new ways to survive. It's strange how silence can be louder than screams. After Daniel's suicide attempt, that's all our home became, silent and fighting.
No crying.
Just a kind of uneasy peace that felt like walking on glass. Emily avoided him completely. I tried to keep the house functioning, meals, laundry, routine, but it all felt hollow. Every time I looked at Daniel, I saw betrayal. Every time I looked at Emily, I saw pain. And every time I looked in the mirror, I saw failure. The counseling attempt I convinced Emily to join a family therapy session. She didn't want to go, but after days of arguing, she agreed, mostly for me. The therapist, a calm woman named Dr. Harper, began softly. "We can't heal if we keep repeating the story of what happened. We have to understand why it happened." Emily scoffed.
Why?
"Because my dad's a selfish liar who ruined our family." Daniel looked down. "You have every right to hate me, Emily." "I don't hate you," she said coldly. "I just don't see you as my father anymore." I flinched. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I know. And that's the hardest punishment you could ever give me." The therapist nodded gently. "Daniel, is there something you haven't shared yet? Something deeper?" He hesitated, looked at me, then said quietly, "Yes. There's something neither of you know." The revelation that night after the session, Daniel asked me to meet him at a diner downtown. He said he needed to tell me something about Rachel. I didn't want to go. But curiosity and fear drove me there anyway. When I arrived, he looked exhausted, like a man carrying the weight of decades. "Sarah," he began, "I didn't just cheat because I wanted to. I was confused, broken, in a way I didn't even realize." I frowned. "Confused? About what? Daniel? About ruining your marriage?" He shook his head.
No.
"About who Rachel really is." My stomach turned. "What are you talking about?" He took a deep breath. "Rachel isn't just your sister." I blinked. "Excuse me? She's also my daughter." The words hit me like a freight train and I froze, staring at him, the room spinning. "Daniel, what the hell are you saying?" He looked down, voice trembling. "Before we met, when I was in college, I had a relationship with a woman named Anna. I didn't know she was your mother's friend. When she got pregnant, she disappeared. I never knew what happened to the baby until years later, when I met your family." My blood ran cold. "You mean Rachel?" He nodded slowly. "I didn't know when I married you. I swear. But when I found out later, I didn't tell you. I couldn't. I was terrified it would destroy everything. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My mind flashed through years of birthdays, holidays, laughter, and now it all felt poisoned. And you still slept with her?" I whispered, disgusted. He buried his face in his hands. "I didn't know how to stop it, Sarah. I wasn't thinking. It wasn't love. It was guilt.
Shame.
I was trying to make sense of something I never should have touched." I stood up, trembling. "You didn't just betray me, Daniel. You betrayed your own blood." The confrontation I drove home shaking, my hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. When I walked in, Emily was in the kitchen. "Mom, what's wrong?" she asked. Alarmed, I looked at her, at the innocence still trying to survive in her eyes, and I couldn't say it. Not yet. But later that night, I overheard Daniel and Emily in the living room. He was trying to explain everything to her. She screamed so loud the neighbors probably heard. "You're telling me Aunt Rachel is your daughter?" "My aunt is your," she broke off, gagging. "Oh my God, that's sick. That's disgusting." He tried to reach for her. She shoved him away. "Don't touch me. You're a monster." Then she ran upstairs, slammed her door, and didn't come out for 2 days. The letter from Rachel 2 weeks later. A letter arrived. No return addressed. IT was from Rachel. The handwriting was shaky, the paper smudged with tears. "Sarah, I didn't know.
I swear.
I never knew Daniel was my father. When I found out, I wanted to die. I didn't mean to destroy your life. I destroyed my own too. I'm leaving the country.
Please don't look for me.
Tell Emily I'm sorry." I sat on the floor, clutching that letter, sobbing until my body went numb. There are betrayals that break your heart, and then there are truths that destroy your soul. Emily's breaking point that evening, I found Emily packing a bag. "I'm leaving, Mom," she said flatly. "I can't live in this house. I can't breathe here." I begged her to stay, but she wouldn't listen. "Every time I look at him, I see everything wrong with this family. I don't even know who we are anymore." She stopped at the door, tears streaming down her face. "You know what's funny, Mom? I thought punishing him would make me feel better.
But now,
I just feel dirty, like I became part of the same sickness." Then she left, and for the first time in my life, I realized this story wasn't about betrayal anymore. IT was about how lies, no matter how deep you bury them, always crawl back to the surface. The empty house that night, I sat alone in the living room. The house was too quiet, and oh laughter, and oh voices, just memories echoing in every corner. Daniel came in, sat across from me, and whispered, "I never wanted this, Sarah." I didn't answer. I just stared out the window because the truth was I didn't know what I wanted anymore. It's been 6 months since Emily left home. 6 months since she walked out that front door with her suitcase, her anger, and her broken heart. The house hasn't been the same since. Her laughter used to fill every corner. Now it's just silence and echoes. Daniel still lives in the guest room. We barely speak. We coexist like two ghosts haunting the same space for different reasons. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night and half expect to hear Emily's door creak open, her voice whispering, "Mom, are you awake?" But the only thing that answers now is the wind outside. Emily's new life. She'd moved 3 hours away to attend community college. She didn't tell me at first, but I found out through one of her old friends. She got a small apartment, a part-time job at a coffee shop, and she rarely picked up my calls. When she did, it was short, detached. "I'm fine, Mom.
Don't worry.
Classes are okay. Please stop checking on me." But her voice always sounded hollow, like she was surviving, not living. I'd send her texts every night anyway. "I love you. Be safe. I'm proud of you." Most went unanswered. Still, I sent them. Because that's what mothers do. We keep loving, even when we're not loved back. Daniel's redemption attempt. One morning, I found Daniel in the kitchen making coffee, something he hadn't done for me in years. He looked tired but sober, calmer. "I've started therapy," he said quietly. And I wrote Emily a letter. I didn't know how to respond. Part of me was relieved. He was finally trying. Another part of me wanted to throw that letter into the fire. "It won't fix anything," I said. "I know," he nodded. "But it might help her heal. Or at least know I'm trying." He placed the letter on the counter, sealed in a white envelope with Emily's name written in his shaky handwriting. I didn't open it. I just stared at it, a piece of paper holding decades of guilt. The phone called 2 weeks later. My phone rang. IT was a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, the world stopped. "Mrs. Miller? This is Officer Jenkins from Dallas County. There's been an accident involving your daughter." My knees gave out. The mug in my hand shattered on the floor. "Is she?" "She's alive," he said quickly. "But she's in critical condition. You need to come now." The hospital, I don't remember the drive. I just remember the sound of my own heart pounding so loud it drowned out the world. When I reached the hospital, I ran inside, gasping, shaking. The nurse led me to her room. Emily lay there, hooked to tubes and monitors, her face bruised, her arm bandaged. A doctor explained she'd been hit by a drunk driver while crossing the street after work. Her injuries were severe, but she was stable. I collapsed into the chair beside her bed, took her hand, and whispered, "I'm here, baby. I'm here." Daniel arrived 2 hours later. When he saw her, his face crumbled. He sank to his knees beside the bed, whispering, "Please wake up, Em.
Please.
I can't lose you too." For a moment, despite everything, I saw the man I married, broken, desperate, full of love and regret. The letter she never read as we waited for news. I remembered the letter he'd written. I pulled it from my purse. I'd brought it with me, just in case. Daniel nodded when he saw it. "Read it to her," he said. "Please." I opened it, my hands trembling, and began to read aloud. "Emily, if you're reading this, it means I've failed you in more ways than I can count. I can't undo what I did. I can't erase the pain. But I can tell you this. Not a day goes by that I don't wish I could trade my life to take it all back. You are my light, the only good thing I've ever done right. Please don't let my mistakes define who you become. I love you more than I deserve to." When I finished, Daniel was crying quietly beside me. And then, for the first time in months, Emily's fingers moved, her hand squeezed mine. Her eyelids fluttered. "Mom," she whispered weakly. "I'm here, baby." "Dad." He leaned closer, tears streaming. "I'm right here, sweetheart." "I heard you," she murmured. "The letter," her voice broke. "I forgive you, Dad." He sobbed, the kind of raw, broken sob that sounds like a prayer, that I held them both, my heart cracking open again, but this time, not from pain, but from something that felt like grace. The recovery over the next few weeks, Emily slowly recovered. She started physical therapy, and I stayed by her side every day. One afternoon, she looked at me and said, "Mom, maybe pain doesn't go away. Maybe we just learn to live around it." I nodded. "That's called healing, sweetheart." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe we're finally healing." Daniel visited every few days. Their conversations were cautious, gentle. But something had shifted. There was forgiveness, even if fragile. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like hugs and happy endings. Sometimes, it's just being able to sit in the same room again without breaking. The unexpected visitor one evening, as the sun set behind the hospital, a nurse handed me an envelope. "This was dropped off for Emily earlier," she said. "No return name." I opened it, and my heart nearly stopped. Inside was a photo of Rachel, standing somewhere that looked like Italy. She was smiling faintly, holding a handwritten note that said, "Tell her I'm alive. Tell her I'm trying to be better too." I showed it to Emily the next morning. She stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "Maybe everyone deserves a second chance." Moral of this part, sparkling heart, sometimes it takes almost losing everything to remember what truly matters. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It simply gives the future a chance to exist.